What's good? It's your boy Fanon. Welcome back to the channel. Subscribers, if you're not subscribed, please subscribe and hit the bell icon. This video is going to be so much fun. Oh, and thank you to everybody that donates on the Super Chat, Venmo, and Patreon. Thank you guys so much for the support. Look, I've been knowing this, listening to Eddie Hearn, that this match between Deontay Wilder and Anthony Joshua was not going to happen, and that they didn't want it to happen. And then there was big news today, not really expected news. I didn't know that the WBA was going to basically bail him out. I didn't expect that to come today, but I knew something was going to come today from Eddie Hearn and, the WBA after Deontay Wilder said that he was going to sign the contract that was going to keep the bout from happening, right? But I did not expect, I did expect Eddie Hearn to come out with a lie, right? I didn't expect the WBA angle because I couldn't have told that, but I knew something was going to come today. But boxing scene, and shame on you, boxing scene. Shame on you for allowing this dude to lie in your face like he lied in your face today. Eddie Hearn is an absolute, complete, pathological liar. And he told a story that was published, that Boxing Scene published without contradicting him at all, as if they haven't been paying attention to the timeline of the events of this negotiation. Eddie Hearn tells a bold-faced lie. And it's like he didn't even think long enough to come up with one that made any sense whatsoever. It wasn't even bathed in half-truths. So let me go through this timeline with you. Let me tell you what he said, and then let's just go back and just point out how what he says makes no sense at all from the actual events that have taken place. And he says, ironically enough, he says, nothing makes sense here at all. Yeah, it doesn't make sense at all. Nothing that you said makes sense because none of it's true. Listen to this. Eddie Hearn can't understand what's taken Deontay Wilder's handlers so long to respond in any way to the contract they were sent last week for a huge heavyweight showdown by Anthony Joshua. This is by Keith Idec, put out today, Tuesday, June 26th. Did you hear this statement that they just put out? This is a complete media trash article. Eddie can't understand why Deontay Wilder's handlers so long to respond in any way to the contract they were sent last week for a huge heavyweight showdown. Hearn said he still hadn't heard back from Shelly Finkel, Wilder's co-manager, and/or Al Heyman, Wilder's advantages by Tuesday. This is Tuesday, isn't it? WBA President Gilberto Mendoza ordered Hearn, Joshua's promoter, to finalize a deal with Alexander Povetkin within 24 hours of Joshua's mandatory WBA title defense against Povetkin. This is Eddie Hearn telling Sky Sports. And Boxing Scene puts this out without any. Wow. All right, let's go through it. We sent the contract nearly 9 days ago. We weren't necessarily expecting a signed contract back. We just want your comments. If we wanted wanted a fight, we received a contract, we would be back with comments within 24 hours. Nothing makes sense here at all. They emailed me on Sunday, June 17th, and said we would be back with our comments on Friday, right? That Friday being I do believe the 22nd of February, right? And they said they would be back with our comments on Friday. Why do you need another 5-6 days? They know we're under pressure from the WBA, and it all feels like a big game, to be honest with you. It's very, very frustrating, and right now it looks like Povetkin is next. Now, here's the thing. That's a complete and utter lie. It's a complete and utter lie. Let's go actually through the timeline, which has been laid out on the World Boxing News every step of the way. Eddie Hearn promised the contract on the 15th, Friday, the 15th of June. The contract was actually sent to Deontay Wilder on Monday, June 18th. Wilder responded within 24 hours with questions on the 19th. They didn't hear from him, and then Shelly Finkel again requested that information through World Boxing News on the 21st. They received response on the 22nd. Now, why would I believe? First of all, they said that he emailed me on the 17th. They didn't email you on the 17th, Eddie, because they hadn't even received the contract. If anything, they emailed you on the 17th to ask you where the contract was, Eddie. They said they emailed. This makes no sense at all. They emailed me on Sunday, the June 27th. Really? How did they email you about a contract that you hadn't sent yet? That didn't come till the next day? And then they said they would be back with comments on Friday. No, they didn't, Eddie. They said that they would be back with comments. They got back with comments the next day. And you actually responded the next Friday after Deontay Wilder and Shelly Finkel put it out on World Boxing News that they hadn't even heard from you yet. So the answers to the questions of why do you need another 5 or 6 days? They needed 5 or 6 days because you didn't respond. Because Eddie Hearn was late with the contract. He said that he promised the contract on the 15th of June, which was a Friday. They didn't receive the contract till the 18th, not Sunday, the 17th. They didn't get a contract back from you till a day after that. And then they didn't say that they would get back with the comments on Friday. They had already gotten back to you with the comments one day after you had asked for them. Eddie, stop lying, Eddie. Stop lying. And how do I know this is true? And why do I know that they had already received the responses before the 22nd? Because Eddie Hearn said so. Eddie Hearn had said so. Because he said the Winkle had been satisfied. Do you remember that? Let's go to an article that was put out on World Boxing News on June 23rd. Let's read what he says. Asked by WBN on Friday whether those issues raised had been addressed by Matchroom Boxing on Friday, Finkel replied with, Eddie sent us a response, which we will respond to next week. In a development yesterday, Hearn had commented on 2 points via social media, hinting that those bones of contentions were no longer an issue. Stating the Winkle has been satisfied, right? This was, he said, a development yesterday. What's the date of this article? It's the 22nd of June. So yesterday was the 22nd. Eddie Hearn commented on the 22nd that the Winkle or Deontay Wilder's questions had been asked. So if Eddie Hearn said on the 22nd that the questions had been already satisfied, then how could he say that they had promised that they would be back with comments on the day that he had responded to it? He responded to the questions on the 22nd after having already been asked for them twice and having been asked by the media why he hadn't responded. He responded as a result of the media having said something on the 19th. I hate to have to go into this level of detail, but this guy is a complete joke. There's nothing true in that statement whatsoever, except for this statement that he makes a little bit ahead of that. If my fighter wanted to fight and we'd received a contract, we would be back with comments within 24 hours. Well, ironically enough, Eddie Hearn had had gotten a term sheet from Deontay Wilder for $50 million offer, a term sheet, which is an agreement, and never heard back at all. But the blatant lie here, and I'm going to respond to this. This is absolutely totally reframing what happened. They emailed me on Sunday, June 17th, and said we would be back with our comments on Friday. They hadn't even received the contract until the following day. So that's not true. Why do you need another 5 or 6 days? Let's go back to this. The request, they had actually responded on the 19th. So they didn't need another 5 or 6 days to respond. But then they requested it again because they hadn't heard back from them on the 21st. And how do we know that they responded to him on the 21st? Because it was all over the media, and Eddie Hearn then came out and said on the 22nd that the Winkle had been satisfied. What Eddie Hearn says right here cannot possibly be true. But what he is doing is this 5 or 6 days is when they said that they would actually sign the contract. But ironically enough, or predictably enough, when they say, you know what, even though you don't even have a date on it. Now, why do you need another 5 or 6 days? Not that they actually took the 5 or 6 days, but it could be because on the 24th, which was the day before yesterday, I do believe that's when he said that they had told them that they would have the contract to them by the 29th. And they were willing to do that even though they didn't know when the fight was going to be or where the fight was going to be. Eddie Hearn still, according to this report from World Boxing News, has never told Deontay Wilder when the bout was going to happen, or Eddie Hearn has never told them when the bout was going to happen or where it was going to happen. Eddie Hearn clearly does not expect people to keep track of his lies or keep track of the facts enough to find out when he tells a bold-faced lie. Nothing makes sense here at all. I agree. Nothing that you're about to say makes sense. Wilder's team, emailed me on Sunday. No, we didn't, Eddie. They hadn't. If they did, it was to ask you where the contract was, because you were acting in this as if you actually sent it when you said you would on Friday, but you didn't. You didn't send it to Monday. And then on Monday, when you sent it on Monday, they gave you within 24 hours their questions. You didn't respond to the questions, so they went to the media and said, World Boxing News specifically, and said, we have not heard from Eddie Hearn. We are waiting on these 2 questions. And then Eddie Hearn then says, the next day, that the Winkle has been satisfied. We have responded to these questions. So how could they have possibly been waiting 5 or 6 days to give you your comments back? Just ridiculous. And I know that's some minutia, but at the end of the day is Anthony Joshua's a fraud. His promoters are fraud. The WBA is condoning fraudulent activity. And by fraudulent activity, helping along mislead boxing fans into thinking that it's actually in the defense of the WBA, maybe the WBA was like, look, Eddie, stop it. You're not going to take this bout, okay? You're using this bout as a way to try to leverage the bout we know you're going to take. Just take the Deontay Wilder bout. Just take the Alexander Povetkin fight. Okay, just take your mandatory so we can move on with this. Maybe that's what the WBA is saying. Because when I read the WBA's actual quote, it said that it had given you a month to work out your agreement with Alexander Povetkin, which is what I truly believe all of this stuff is about. It was all about, on Eddie Hearn's side, it was never about making a Deontay Wilder bout. And when you lie this blatantly, you know that he's not serious about it. When he acts as if he didn't hear back from within 24 hours, and why would I believe him? Because why would I believe Shelly Finkel? Because this isn't the first time that Eddie Hearn has done this. Eddie Hearn got busted out on the Boxing Voice doing the same thing, saying that they had never heard from Deontay Wilder. And then Shelly Finkel had to get on the phone with the Boxing Voice, with Deontay Wilder, and say, yes, we did. I have emails right here when we talked in November. I have a response in an email here from you that said you and my dad, Barry, had a good chin wag, and I'll send you the financials. That conversation happened in November, but in January, Eddie Hearn's acting like he never heard from him. This guy is an embarrassment to UK boxing, man. He truly is. And I've said this before. I've caught this guy, Eddie Hearn, in more lies in 4 months than I've caught Bob Arum in 30 years. They're just, hey, man, it's a clown move, man. And it is what it is. But I just thought that I would point out this latest blatant lie, right? And he said, I think they've just said enough is enough. We need to know what we're doing. You're mandated to fight Alexander Povetkin, and I think Alexander's people are getting extremely restless as well. Yeah, I agree with that. They probably are. They're like, look, Eddie, you're not going to fight Deontay Wilder. Stop faking, okay? And we might want to have this in Russia, and if you're not willing to give a 50-50 split on the revenue to Povetkin, then we're going to go to purse bid, and you're going to lose it. So, yeah. But again, at risk of being redundant, summarizes, Eddie Hearn was never serious about it. And he admits it himself. He indicts himself because he said, if my fighter wanted to fight and we received a contract, we would be back with comments within 24 hours. Well, guess what? Deontay Wilder was back within 24 hours with those comments. But Eddie Hearn and Anthony Joshua still haven't responded directly to the $50 million offer. It's ridiculous, man. Anyway, with that, I'm out. Peace.